What's up, heathens? How ya doing? Tonight we are going over a Frank Turek video. Frank Turek. Sorry. Whenever I say his last name, I think of Turek, the dinosaur hunter. I don't know if you guys played that back on the N64 or even the re-release version on PC. I don't know. I really like that game. It's fun to play, but I think of Frank Turek. Whenever I think of his name, I think of the video game. Anyways, so we're going to be going over his video tonight. Apparently, he doesn't know what the puddle argument is against the teleological argument. And if you want to know exactly what we're referencing here, I've actually got a video that I can pull up and I can let you guys see real quick as like a little intro thingy. All right, here we go.
It's like saying, "Oh, I'm just here. I have every specification to be here. Therefore, I must have like a special reason to be here, and I must have a special cause to be here, and it's not really anything more than that."
So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. We will be watching some Douglas Adams, so I hope that you guys are prepared for that. But anyways, y'all ready to get on into the Today I Learned? Tonight we have Frank Turek answering questions from the audience, where he gave a talk, I'm guessing, about how it probably takes more faith to be an atheist. I say probably not because that's probably like atheists probably have more faith, just that's probably what he talked about. So he's answering this question from a kid, and so this kid's going to ask his question, and then we're going to watch a Douglas Adams video.
Sometimes I run into this question or this argument against the teleological argument, which would be the puddle argument.
Yeah.
Which claims that the teleological argument, even though it has specifications that ultimately lead up to human life, it seems that through the puddle argument, it's more like it's just an appeal to pathos than it really is to any logic.
All right, explain what you mean by the puddle argument.
It's like saying, "Oh, I'm just here. I have every specification to be here. Therefore, I must have like a special reason to be here, and I must have a special cause to be here, and it's not really anything more than that."
Okay. So basically, this is just to highlight how it's a special pleading argument to say that this universe is finely tuned for us to be here. It's also very special pleading to say that, oh, everything's designed because I've found other, designs in the universe that require some kind of outside entity to design it. There's a lot of different fallacies that go into this, like false analogies and straw men and everything like that. But I think what we need is a firm foundation. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch a video by Douglas Adams, or it's not by Douglas Adams, there's just a video recorded of Douglas Adams. So we're going to watch that real quick because he lays out that is the wrong fucking video. This one. So yes, this is Douglas Adams. He wrote the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Universe. Huh? So here, it's only about 2 minutes long. We're going to listen to it.
We always ask ourselves why, because we look for intention around us, because we always we do something with intention. We boil an egg in order to eat it. So we look at the rocks and we look at the trees and we wonder what intention is here, even though it doesn't have intention. So we think, so what did this person who made this world intend it for? And this is the point where you think, well, it fits me very well. The caves and the forests and the stream and the mammoths. He must have made it for me. I mean, there's no other conclusion you can come to. And it's rather like a puddle waking up one morning I know they don't normally do this, but allow me, I'm a science fiction writer. A puddle wakes up one morning and thinks, this is a very interesting world I find myself in. It fits me very neatly. In fact, it fits me so neatly, I mean, really precise, isn't it? It must have been made to have me in it. And the sun rises, and he's continuing to narrate the story about this hole being made to have him in it. And the sun rises, and gradually the puddle is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And by the time the puddle ceases to exist, it's still thinking, it's still trapped in this idea that the hole was there for it. And if we think the world is here for us, we will continue to destroy it in the way that we've been destroying it.
All right. So yes, that's the actual puddle argument against the teleological argument. Basically, it's illustrating how very special pleading the entire teleological argument is. Because it's like you're saying, oh look, everything was made just for me. And so that must mean that it was made for me. And that's all that he was really trying to point out here, is how useless the teleological argument is, and how it doesn't really get us anywhere because it doesn't actually answer any questions. Like it just special pleads that everything has to be here for a reason, and that reason is us. It was made directly for us. So Turek is going to go a couple different ways on this, and we're going to address each one. Yeah, we got a new member, Carl Christofferson. Way to go. Also, I'm so sorry I said universe. It was a slip. Galaxy. Obviously, I meant galaxy. My bad. Thank you, honey. Caitlin Chloe. Hi! Have my free monthly super chat from Premium. Yeah, hey, you know what? If you guys don't know, if you join Premium, you get a free super chat that you can put towards any creator out there. Also, you don't get ads, and it plays when the app is closed. So I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why to get Premium. Also, YouTube's demonetizing like everything that I have, so it would help me out too, not to be like self-centered or anything.
Get Premium so we can make money.
Well, I think if I understand the puddle argument, they're saying that the reason there's a puddle there is there's a hole in the ground and it's filled with water, and that's just the way it is, and we're kind of the same way. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, practically.
It's kind of like what we're doing is we see a target, we see an arrow in the wall, and we go up and draw a bullseye around it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes, that's exactly what Douglas Adams was pointing out. How you're special pleading the situation. Because just because this universe looks designed or that it has complex things in it does not necessarily mean that God had to do it. There are natural reasons why it could have happened, just like there are natural reasons why that sentient puddle woke up in a hole. There are natural reasons why it collected there. There are natural reasons why that happened. And none of it was because somebody dug out a hole just so that the water could collect there. Now, is that on occasion the case? Yeah, sure. We dig holes to collect water in all the time. But for that particular context, the context is a natural situation. And with the universe being a natural situation, everything would have had to come into being naturally. There has never been a case where something supernatural has given rise to anything in this universe. Every time something has a supernatural explanation, given enough time, we've been able to explain it with natural processes. We got another super chat from Tim Davis. Thank you.
Well, I don't think that works for a number of reasons. One reason, obviously, is the universe had a beginning, and secondly, a fine-tuned beginning. And you can't make any puddle argument for that.
Actually, that's exactly what the puddle argument was made for. Because you're special pleading the beginning of the universe and how the universe is constructed and all of the different physical properties of this universe. You're saying that this universe is special and it needed to have a creator without actually connecting the dots there. You're saying that this universe is special. Okay, well, this universe kind of is special because, you know, life exists in this universe, let's say, just as an arbitrary way to measure it. That doesn't automatically lead you to a God existing. You have to connect those dots first. You have to be able to prove that a God is definitely necessary for that to happen. So we got MA to Fletcher Eisler saying the special puddle perspective fallacy. Reasonable assumption. The planet, galaxy, and the universe that contains it does everything it can to kill us, and theologians think it's fine-tuned. Yes, they do, because they use these very specific constants we've been able to derive from reality to say that, well, if these constants were different, then we wouldn't be alive. When in actuality, if these constants were different, then shit would just develop differently. Now, would that universe be habitable to life? Maybe, maybe not. You don't know. You don't know what other values out there exist for life to actually happen. Now, there are certain values of certain things that mean that, like, gravity wouldn't have as much of an effect, and so therefore everything would just, you know, fling off and not be held together in some kind of way. So, I mean, there are those different kinds of things, but that's not indicative of the entire set of constants that we know.
Because nothing exists until the universe exists, nothing made of molecules anyway, and it's precisely fine-tuned. If it were changed any way, slightly, any one of those factors, slightly, nothing would exist or nothing livable would exist. Okay?
Yeah, so he cannot know this whatsoever. The Gym Tanker just sent a super chat saying it's putting the cart before the horse. And it's definitely doing that. He's basically counting his chickens before they hatch here.
Okay, so there appears to be intelligence behind the universe. Secondly, the genome that we mentioned earlier, the three...
So, before we get to the genome, I have a lot to say about the genome. But before we get to that, you see how he makes that logical leap to a creator was needed to make everything. You know, he's about to go into kind of this watchmaker kind of argument, just using DNA and shit like that. But basically for the fine-tuning thing, there's no way for him to know, like, what values would be habitable to life. There's no way for him to know how we would tweak one particular variable. What would that change in these other variables? Because a lot of these things are so codependent on each other that you change one thing and you change everything. So basically, he's Dunning-Krugering the fuck out of this argument.
3.2 billion letter genome is like a software program. If you're walking along the beach and you see in the sand, John loves Mary, you don't go, gee, the waves made that. Or the crabs came out of the water and made that message in the sand, right? You know immediately that that message must be the product of a mind.
Hey, motherfucker, you don't know if Aquaman exists. He could do that shit. He can talk to fucking crabs and have them carve out whatever the fuck in the sand. He could probably have them build a whole fucking sandcastle. You don't know what lies out there. Aquaman could just be chilling at the bottom of the sea right now being like, Frank Turek, fuck that guy. He don't know me. The Gym Tanker says putting the chickens before the horse in a cart and counting them before they hatch. Oh, man. But to go back to his DNA is a like computer code or something like that, that's not exactly how shit actually happens. So for one thing, the big difference between a computer program and DNA is the fact that DNA is controlled by the laws of physics, whereas you know, the computer programs are controlled by other physical laws. So the issue here, though, is that, like, while memory and, like, storage and everything like that in a computer system, for the most part, is very stable, I say for the most part because there are certain situations where you can lose memory and everything like that. But where it differs from DNA is that in order to encode like one nucleotide in DNA, you would need over 100 bits of information for the different things that could affect that one nucleotide in order to encode that nucleotide in the various ways that it can be affected. So DNA has this very complex way it interacts with the things around it, even interacting with itself. So if you want to know more about how complex DNA is and how it's definitely not like a computer code, check out the links down below. There's two very good links down there. One of them says that it's more like it's a list of ingredients and how to make those certain proteins. And that's pretty much all it does. DNA does not know how to build the human body. DNA doesn't know how to do any of that shit. But Frank Turek wants to strawman DNA into doing a lot more than it actually can. Because one thing that I love about computer engineering is the whole idea that you abstract things down to very simple actions and responsibilities. And basically, that's what DNA is. It has a very specific action, a very specific responsibility. It has this genetic code, not to be confused with computer code, but it has this genetic code that is then read and is affected in several different ways. And using that code, they build proteins, and those different proteins do different things. So they're two totally different things. If you're looking for fallacies here, one fallacy would be a strawman fallacy, and another fallacy would be a false analogy fallacy, because these two things are not actually similar.
In all our prior experience, messages always come from minds. Now that's just a few letters long or a couple of words long, but
not all messages come from minds. I mean, like your eyes send messages to your brain sends messages to your nerves. I mean, like, I don't know what he means. I guess he means messages, like intelligible messages, like messages that we can hear and understand. But even then, those differ, because while Frank Turek has an intelligent mind, I'm fairly certain that he wouldn't be able to communicate with somebody that speaks Russian or, I don't know, one of the 2 million languages that they speak over in Africa. Swahili. Like, he wouldn't be able to communicate a message to them, like, vocally. He might be able to draw something in the ground, sure. But just images that are out there I wouldn't say is indicative of an intelligent message. Because, like, you can, like, pareidolia. Pareidolia is where you see patterns in noise because our minds are pattern seeking. So while maybe like on that shore that he was talking about, you wouldn't, necessarily get like the message, I love you, Rachel, or whatever the fuck he said. But you might get like something that looks like a human face because our minds, our brains are pattern seeking. And so that if it sort of looks like a face, our brains will interpret it to look like a face. So he's being very ambiguous here to make his point, and it doesn't actually help him because there are several different ways in which he's wrong.
Imagine a message 3.2 billion letters long in every one of our cells. If John loves Mary requires a message, a messenger, a mind, then a software program 3.2 billion letters long also seems to require a mind, a great mind, to create. And look, atheists can get rid of the argument from information in DNA by simply answering this question: what natural laws can create messages?
Well, messages are created all the time in the animal kingdom. Natural laws, I would say just the general laws of physics. They're just like, just saying messages is very ambiguous. And like in nature, we have a lot of messages. Like, there are plants that will actually send messages to like bees and everything like that. And it's not like the plant is consciously sending a message to the bees. It's that the plant evolved in a certain way where the bees are attracted to the message that is on the plant. So you have to understand, this is why we call it cart before the horse. because you're flipping the entire situation around and misrepresenting it as a straw man. Because it's not things that are sending messages in the world, it's things that are interpreting things in the world as messages.
There's only 4 known natural forces: gravity, the strong and weak nuclear forces, and electromagnetism, light. Which one of those 4, or combination thereof, can create a software program?
And this is where he strawmans the fuck out of this entire argument, because he requires us to point out where in the 4 forces you can combine those and get a software program. And that's not even what the situation is, because using the 4 forces to create something natural would result in something natural. A computer, like my meter here, that came about by a mind. But just because this right here came about by a mind does not necessarily mean that a plant came about by a mind. We have natural processes that explain how that plant came into being. There are natural processes to explain everything in this universe. And the things that we don't know the natural process for, we continuously investigate to find out what actually causes those things to happen. You know, I saw this meme today of a statue over in India, and I've seen this several times, but a statue in India started sweating or something like that. Like water started dripping from the toes of this statue. And yeah, gross. It gets worse. So everybody from around the village and in the country came and like sought after this statue that was like weeping and like sweating off all of this magical fucking water, right? They would even drink the shit in order to cure certain illnesses. Well, come to find out that the reason why shit was like dripping off of that statue is because of a clogged toilet. There's a clogged toilet nearby that just so happened to have the water run down and drip off the foot. Now, you know what the people did to the person that figured that shit out? No, they ran him out of town. Because they saw what they wanted to see. They saw it as an intelligent mind creating a supernatural event here in reality, and they drank shit water. That's what this kind of logic leads to. This kind of logic that Frank Turek is putting in this video leads you to drinking shit water.
The answer is none of them. And if they're going to say, well, one day we'll figure that out, I call that faith.
No. You see, it's not faith to say, well, one day we'll figure it out, or to know that we don't know everything. Like, it's not faith to know that natural processes cause other natural processes. That has been proven in science for as long as science has been a thing. So what you have to prove, Frank, is how a supernatural being actually causes things to happen here in reality. Because the thing about supernatural being is that it stays outside of reality. As soon as that motherfucker takes one step inside reality, then it becomes subject to the natural forces of reality. And so you have to understand that your particular argument has to always rely on faith, whereas the scientific position never has to rely on faith.
That's called natural law of the gaps.
No, natural law of the gaps is not a thing. It never will be, no matter how much Frank Turek wants it to be. The God of the gaps, though, that's definitely something, because, he holds on to God of the gaps like a motherfucker, right? Anytime something is unexplained, like the fact that we can't explain why, certain constants in this universe are those values, are those constant values. We don't know why they're that way. We just know that they are. But looking for a reason for why they are that way and concluding that, oh, it's so that we can exist. It's exactly like the puddle in the hole. The puddle in the hole saw that it was in a hole. And it says, wow, I fit this hole perfectly. You're taking what you perceive and making it about you. The universe is not about you, Frank Turek. The universe doesn't give a shit about you. The universe tries to kill you like every single day. The universe, the earth is perfectly made to kill living organisms. Because 99.9999% of all organisms that have lived on this planet have died. Anyways. So that's it for the video tonight. Obviously, it's cutting away. It's going to do his shilling. But you know what? I would rather do my shilling. Which, go back here. If you're leaving out right now because the response video is over, I appreciate you heathens stopping by. If you have not subscribed yet, definitely hit that subscribe button down below and ding that bell so that you get notifications whenever I upload a video, which is usually 5 days a week. If you actually don't get a notification that day, there's something wrong. Also, while you're down there subscribing and stuff, make sure you leave a comment and smash that like button. But if you're not staying for the Skeptic Mafia comments, then I hope that you will stand up and use your voice.